In this video I'm fitting the suspension arms back into the Elan. I have removed them, gave them to a company to remove the rust from them with acid stripping and then powder coating it, and you can see the end result is pretty okay. I will also be putting new bushings into them. As you can see, this one already has them, so I will not be showing you how to do it on the upper wishbone, but I'll show you how to do it in the other ones, which is just the same process everywhere, so that makes it very easy. And I'm just gonna put everything back together, and I'm not going to bother with alignment or anything, because I've already spent 3 days on the opposite side trying to align things and I wasn't able to align it, so I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Unfortunately, I am on a tight schedule. I need to deliver this car to the paint shop tomorrow, and I also need to record this video. So, with all of that in mind, I'm just gonna show you what I'm doing. Hopefully there will be someone watching this that knows what I'm doing wrong and maybe help me with alignment afterwards, and just leave the comments there. But if you've never seen it done, or if you just want to see the process, then you know, you're welcome to watch. With all of that said, I'll put the camera on time lapse, and we'll see if I can get this done in less than 2 hours. Right, so I'm starting off by doing the bushings, and here I'm showing you removing the sleeve for the droplink bushings, and then I'm fitting the bushings. I've lost my sound in this particular part of my clip, so that's why I need to do a voiceover, but we will be back on to the voiceover part of it. I'm just trying to pull the bushing manually because it's possible, but this time it didn't work. And now that it's gone in, all I have to do is push it against the outer ring, and it popped out just fine. And then obviously afterwards put the sleeve in. As you can see, it can go by hand. Sleeve in, and that is a beautiful drop link. Right, that's the easiest one done. Now the second easiest is these ones. Really, these are the second easiest because they also go by hand. It's just slotting the rubbers, and then the sleeve may be a little bit harder, but I've done it by hand already before, but it's always easier to just take advantage of the tools. It's just a matter of making sure that the alignment is done, and as I'm pushing it in, because it's 2 halves, I don't want it to catch onto the second half, so I need to wiggle it a bit once it starts to catch, just to make sure that it will go through fine, and I believe it just did. And that looks beautiful as well. So moving on to the next one. This should also be easy because it's exactly the same setup. Remove the sleeve, slot the rubbers, press the sleeve into place, and the sleeve will add the pressure required. Again, easy, and looks beautiful in the end. It's just a shame that the rust will get to it. Now, on to the difficult bits. I'm gonna start with this one because I believe this will be the hardest of them all. Now, this is the yoke. I believe that's the name of it. The powder coating here is adding a certain thickness which will stop me from getting the yoke pushed through. So the first thing I need to do is actually remove that coat of powder coating, and for that there's multiple different ways that I will do it. I'm going to start by scratching it a bit with just some metal. A screwdriver will actually get it started. Then after that I will use a bit of the 60 grit sandpaper, always in this motion, and at the end I'm going to use a Dremel with where is that bit? With a scruffy tool, with a scrubber thingy. This is the brass one. I'm going to use the wire metal one, so that I just remove any excess at the end. So I'm gonna set the camera on time lapse, and we'll see how long this takes. Right, and here I'm just going through the process using a screwdriver to remove some of the powder coating, and then using the sandpaper to, you know, have a go at it even further, and then fitting the yoke, pressing it in using a couple of sockets, and just carefully pushing it in through. As you can see here from this picture, it's in place, and I was just making sure it was center aligned. Okay, so you may call it a crude method, but the end result is a yoke bushing fitted, square, just takes a bit of elbow grease. Now, the final one, the lower ball joint. So same process, just getting rid of all of that. I didn't use the Dremel on this one. I probably should have. If I used the Dremel, I would probably have been able to slot that easier. I'm gonna do that with a ball joint, and yeah, just set the time lapse again and see how things go. And here I am doing basically the same again, just using a screwdriver to scratch off the coating of plastic coating, and then using a sandpaper 60 grit, and moving on to using a Dremel. And then after using a Dremel, I have used my manual press to twist the press. It was a bit awkward to use this because I had to put some shims on the workbench to hold the trunk control arm in order to use the press. But after I got it set up in place, it was just a matter of using leverage. Okay, so I think this is as snug as it can go. Yeah, I don't think it will go any further. So just need to undo this now. Now my confidence that the ball joint is good, it's because I see the little ring above this line. So should be all good. Ball joint fitted, yoke bushings fitted, the back part of it, the part that connects with the car, is also fitted. So this is finally ready to go in the car. Droplinks ready to go in the car. The track control arm supporting bracket, whatever is the name of it, it's also ready. And yeah, so we're going back in the car and start putting everything back together. Okay, so now that all the bushings are installed, I'm going to set up a time lapse again and install everything. So the first thing I've done was to clean up a little bit of grease in the area, and then I was going to fit the track control arm assembly and the track control arm support bracket. These are both held together to the chassis with M12 bolts, and then they are held together to each other with the M8 bolts. So I put all of those together and moved on to the drop links. So I moved the camera to the side, and as you can see, the camera was actually pointing straight at my light bar, so you can barely see what I was doing. But you can trust me when I tell you that what I was doing in this part of the video is to fit in the drop links. So I attached them using, I believe it was an M8 bolt to the chassis, and then using another M8 bolt, I connected that to the anti-roll bar. After that, it was time to install the through bolt that connects the roll bar to the track control arm, and it also goes through the two forks of the suspension. So I've lined up all of that and put it together, put the through bolt, connected also to the roll bar, and tightened that nut. So after that, it was time to work on the upper part of the suspension. So I've installed both halves of the wishbone and the new upper ball joint. You can see me here smearing some copper grease onto the hardened steel bolts. I was putting quite a lot of it onto the non-thread area with the intention of being able to remove these later on, since they usually seize. And then I put it into there with the new stainless steel nuts. So after this, I had to actually move on, and I wanted to connect something to the steering rack ball joint, but I found out that the rubber boot was ruptured, so I had to replace this one. And this is what you can see here in the footage as I'm going through. It took me actually quite a bit of time to do that. But moving on, I then put back the hubs. So I lined up the hub with the lower ball joint, tightened up that M12 nylock nut, and then I lined that hub together with the steering arm, but I did not tighten that nut at that point. And then lined up the upper ball joint and tightened the other to M12 nylock nut. I moved on to the steering arm one, and I've tightened that one up using the crowbar to give some pressure, as I will link it in the description about it. After that, I have got my jack, raised up the suspension to the point where it was raising the car itself, so this is simulating that the car was on the floor. And then that's when I tighten all of the bolts and nuts around, as you can see from the footage. The thing left to do is just tighten this one here, the anti-roll bar. I guess I'll do that in front of the camera now, just for the sake of showing something. Yes, that's it for this video. The front suspension is now back in place. It needs to be adjusted for camber toe and toe in, toe out, camber and cast. So I have 4 chims on the front, 4 chims at the rear. I've got the spacer here, which I just put in whatever way it came, and I put both pointing the same direction. I will have to take this to a shop to get it checked, and then I will have to adjust everything back to what it's supposed to be. Got a new ball joint in the bottom, new ball joint in the top, some new bolts here and there, some stainless steel bolts replaced. The suspension arms are all powder coated, acid stripped and powder coated, so they should last me a good 20 years now without rusting. Yes, I have one more thing to do actually. Some of this will have to come out very soon, because I have a bit of a leak here on the boot, on the back boot. What's the name of it? I forgot the name of it, but that boot over there is leaking, so I will have to replace that one at some point very soon. It's an MOT failure, so I have to do it before the MOT, but I don't have to do it before I get the car painted. So that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.